Welcome to the Blitz, everyone. College football, all the biggest games we're about to talk about. Joining me, of course, my good friends Ross Benjamin and Ralph Michaels. We've got a lot on the docket. LSU, Alabama, Texas A&M, Missouri, Oregon, Iowa, Notre Dame, Navy. Well, it's a big spread, but it's a game I think a lot of people will be watching Saturday night. And, of course, our top 10 showdown is Texas Tech and BYU this week. A top 10 showdown with a double-digit spread, I may add. Also, any game you got besides those that you guys want to talk about, feel free. If you're watching in the chat, drop us a comment, and we will be happy to answer those after we get through our rundown. Ross, I'm going to go to you first, and we're going to start in the SEC. I hope I didn't catch you there. So as we talk LSU and Alabama, this obviously preseason, most seasons is one of the more marquee games to look forward to in the conference. But LSU, well, they didn't like Brian Kelly so much, they decided we'll give you $54.5 million to go away. What a world we live in. And they're off a bye. Ralph has mentioned it several times on the show before. I know we all have, that there's been a new coach bump for a lot of teams in that first game. We saw Florida cover for an interim last week against Georgia, speaking of the SEC. What do you think here? I kind of think I want to fire. If I were to play this game, I would actually fire on the dog, LSU. Alabama, who I know you, before the start of the season, and I agreed with you, might be a good bet to win the national championship. They lose their first game. And then what happens? They haven't lost since. But they've been outgained, Ross, in 3 straight games, and that is what has me concerned. What do you think here?
Yeah, I don't see them getting outgained here. I went into this, Brian, looking at this line, and I just think that Alabama's undervalued in this spot. I really do. Why I say it, LSU's defense is good, but they get worn down, especially against a potent offense like Alabama. And their offense is just so limited and has been so disappointing this season that I just think they're getting too much respect because of their brand name here. Because Alabama, to me, is clearly the better team. And I think they're clearly the better team by a couple touchdowns, especially at home. So I'm going to go with Bama in this spot. Late at 10 points. I just think that this isn't as a marquee a matchup as it's been in prior years. It lacks a little bit of luster here, and it's mostly because LSU, not because of Alabama. And, yeah, they've been outgained for the last 3 weeks. I know Ralph likes to look at that kind of stuff, but I just don't see LSU being able to match them offensively, and I think that's going to be the big difference here.
Okay. Ralph, Ross telling me basically, hey, BP, keep that money that you want to spend on LSU in your pocket. I don't think so. RJ in the chat there, by the way, noting that the show is quickly becoming one of his favorites. Thank you, RJ. RJ also, as we can tell from his little logo there on YouTube, he knows LSU. And he points out, you talk about the LSU defense wearing down, Ross, no weeks. They're calling you demand, Ralph, in the chat, by the way. So I am going to say, what do you think? I mean, to me, I don't know. Yeah, I'm typically a dog player, so it would be dog or pass, but Ross made some good points there about Alabama. What do you think? Is there any is there anything to the fact that Alabama's been outgained 3 straight weeks?
No. I mean, let's look at what they've been outgained by, Brian. 5 yards, 37 yards, and 8 yards. I mean, that's, you look at the last weeks, they're plus 26 yards per game. You should be mentioning that LSU got outgained by 226 yards at Ole Miss, got outgained at Vanderbilt by 74 yards, and got mauled against Texas A&M, got outgained by 148 yards. I agree with Ross. You look at the last 4 weeks, LSU's getting outgained by 86 yards per game. Their defense has allowed 480 and 426 yards twice. And their rush defense, the last 2 games against Vanderbilt and A&M, 239 yards and 5.3 yards per carry. 2 weeks ago, 224 yards and 5.6 yards per carry. We know that Bama wants to pass the ball more with Ty Simpson than run the ball, but they only have 17 more passes than rushes. When Bama gets in trouble, they don't run the ball well. Against Florida State, they ran for 87 yards, 3.0. Last week against South Carolina, in a game where they only won by 7, they only rushed for 72 yards per carry. They're going to rush for 200 yards. They're going to win this game handily. It's still in the mix to be one of my client plays, so Bama for me.
Okay, there you have it. I came into this show saying, hey, maybe the dog after fire Brian Kelly might be worth a look. Ralph and Ross both told me, no, don't do that, BP. That would be a bad idea. So there you have it. What do you guys think of this game? Feel free to let us know. Again, down in the comments section while you're down there. Hit that thumbs up button. Show your support here for the Blitz. We always appreciate it. And don't forget to click subscribe as well. That way you'll be instantly notified when this show goes live, as we do every 1 p.m. On Thursday, with one exception coming up. I'm sure you guys are aware, Thanksgiving, a very popular holiday in the month of November. That week, we will be going live on Wednesday because, of course, Thanksgiving falls on a Thursday. Always has since the beginning of time. So Wednesday, the week of Thanksgiving, we will be on one day earlier to help you out. And, of course, remember that week is a busy week of college football with a nice slate on Friday. So see you then. But we've got more games to talk about this week, guys. And I mentioned Alabama LSU may not be a top 10 matchup, but I'll tell you what is. Ross, is Texas Tech against BYU.
Yeah.
And this is one to me that would maybe be a contender for your does this line make sense segment on Wager Talk today, because we have BYU. They've not lost a game. They are off a bye. They're getting 10 in Lubbock. Now, I am not a BYU believer. Apologize to all you Mormons out there, but I think Texas Tech is the better team. I agree with this line being at 10 personally. What do you think here? Is BYU likely to go down for the first time this season?
I love Texas Tech in this spot. I mean, the bottom line, you hit it right on the nail on the head. You got the lower ranked team with one loss on the season as a double-digit favorite against a higher-ranked team that's 8-0 and coming off a bye week. I trust the odds makers a hell of a lot more than I do the pollsters. You've heard me say this time and time again throughout the course of our shows. This, to me, is a fishy line. Being the size, I think a lot of people get sucked in on the sizable undefeated underdog and higher-ranked team. I'm not going to be one of them. As a matter of fact, I went into the database, Ralph. You'd be interested. This is right up your alley. When you have a college football undefeated team, now this is not a betting trend. It's a betting angle. A trend is specific teams. A betting angle applies to all teams in specific situation or situations. A college football undefeated team playing after Game 7 of the season, so Game 8 and beyond, and they're away underdog of 5.5 or greater. They're playing a team like Texas Tech with a win percentage of 857 or better, but they're not undefeated, which most likely 857 or better this late in the year, Game 8 on one-loss team. So it applies perfectly to this situation. And those college football undefeated teams as a way underdog of 5.5 or greater in this specific situation, 2-12 against the spread, 0-14 straight up. The average line in those 14 games, the away underdog was an average of plus 8.1, and they lost by an average of 19.3 points per game. This speaks volumes to me. I don't put all my eggs in one basket on a betting angle, but it certainly supports the other things I'm looking at. Texas Tech 5-0 straight up in ATS at home this year, and they won by 25 points or more on each occasion and allowed just 10.4 points per game and 238 yards per contest. And Ralph, you'll like this. At home in those 5 wins, they're allowing just 3.6 yards per play. On the other hand, BYU, 5-0 in conference play, but they're allowing close to 386 yards per contest in conference play. And since 2021, Texas Tech, by the way, 7-0 straight up in ATS against FBS teams as a home favorite of 5 or greater, winning by 35 points per contest. Texas Tech for me, Brian.
All right. So the first game, maybe Ross and I had differing opinions. Ross basically told me where to take my idea, but here we're on the same side. I see Titan CT is in the chat as well. He leans the oil money laying 10 with the Red Raiders. Obviously, they went out and spent a lot of NIL money. That's why they're this good. And he makes a lot of good points, Ralph, obviously. Also, we should mention the BYU running back, Martin. He is questionable to play. And BYU, look, you give teams credit for winning, right, guys? But let's peel back this BYU schedule. They were neck and neck with Iowa State. They were a home dog to rival Utah. That's a game where if Kyle Whittingham, I'm not a take the points guy with field goals often, but if Kyle Whittingham would have taken the points, Utah could have won that game, could have won that additional Holy War. And let's also not forget, BYU early in the season on the road, as they are here, Ralph, fell behind old Coach Prime in Colorado. So they've been living dangerously. Is this where do we make it a clean sweep? Is this kind of where it ends for the Cougs?
Yeah, I was showing my pen because Ross stole one of my systems, and this pen says Stat Daddy, so you need to ask my permission before you use that. It's a little
Lawsuit.
different, but I will just share with you, one of the trends I did on the Bet on a TA segment. If you take an away dog of 3 or more, again, a lot of this is rehashed or the same subset of Ross, but an away dog of 3 or more that has at least 7 wins and no losses versus an opponent that has a loss. It doesn't matter, Ross, if they're 85% or higher. All they have to do is have at least 1 loss. Those undefeated away dogs of 3 or more with at least 7 wins have gone 10 and 26, 28% against the spread. So either way you look at it, the +3, the +5.5, the win percentages, it just shows you that you're a dog for a reason. And there's no way I can back BYU. You look at a team that played one of the weakest schedules. When you look at conference play, Texas Tech has played 8 slots better. I have Texas Tech with the number 24th toughest conference schedule, BYU number 32. Texas Tech has been a statistical dynamo. They're number 8 in the country, plus 1.7 yards per play. BYU is all the way back to 42 at plus 0.49 yards per play. And then you look at the Texas Tech defense. They're top 15 as far as holding their foes under what their opponents allow. They do run the ball. This isn't the old air raid. I mean, they've had some games. They went to Houston. They ran the ball 50 times. They ran the ball 40 times against Kansas. They ran the ball 44 times against Kansas State last week for 187 yards. Look at BYU's defense the last 2 games. They allowed 470 yards to Utah, including 226 6.1 yards per carry rushing. They allowed 495 yards to Iowa State. Yeah, that's Cyclones offense, 495 yards and 24 first downs. It's Tech for me all day, all night.
All right, Texas Tech. Seems to be a clean sweep here from the panel, and some of you in the chat seem to agree as well. How about here's a question for you guys in the chat. If you guys, or if you're, and even not even if you're watching this live, if you're just catching us on the replay, feel free to comment like, what would be a good money line parlay piece to put with Texas Tech if you're into that kind of thing? Just give us your best answers. Just a reason to let's keep this thing interactive. And speaking of keeping it interactive here, let's go back to the SEC because this game is on our rundown. Many of you are asking about it. Texas A&M. Some people thought they should have maybe been a little higher in the college football rankings there, Ross. They are still undefeated as well, just like BYU. Get a little more respect. They're playing a Missouri team, guys. That obviously has injuries at the quarterback position. Prabula goes down. Would have been a different, who knows if he wouldn't gotten hurt. Maybe it would have been a different story against Vandy for the Tigers, but alas, he's hurt. They lost that game. What do we think here? It seems to be some skepticism in our chat about this Texas A&M team, Ross. What do you think? Do they slip up here or do they keep it rolling?
Well, I mean, I think they would have had a better chance of slipping up if Missouri's top quarterback didn't go down. What I do like in this game is the under. If you look at both of these teams in conference play defensively, they've both been stout. I mean, Missouri's a good team. Look, their defense has carried them a lot because they're only 2 losses. You look at they lose by 3 at home to Alabama, and they lose by 7 at Vanderbilt. 2 pretty damn good teams the last I checked. And this Texas A&M team, they have an explosive offense, but I think what gets vastly overlooked with Texas A&M is how good their defense has been. And I see this playing out as a lower scoring affair. Missouri certainly can't afford to get in the track meet with Texas A&M here to have a chance. So very small lean, though, Brian, on under 47.5.
Okay, there you go. Ralph, what do you think here? We have a small lean to the under from Ross. What angle would you be taking on this one? The third string quarterback, by the way, for Mizzou is a true freshman.
Yeah, I was going to say a true freshman. He did play well, but that it's so much different coming in and going 20 of 29, in a backup role versus the team prepping for you as A&M is. It's scary that Ross and I have basically agreed on the first three games. Not scary because I'm happy to agree with Wager Talk's #1 college football handicap for the last couple of years, but I'm going to go Missouri team total under. Missouri is going to run the ball. There's no question with a true freshman against this defense. This defense has 32 sacks on the year. The Missouri O-line is decent. When you have Hardy who rushes for 5.9 and you have Roberts who rushes for 6.5 yards per carry, that opens up some holes. But both teams are basically facing the top rush defenses they faced all year. I think Missouri. I'll actually correct what I meant to say. I'm going to go Missouri team total first half under. They're going to need a lot of time to get this quarterback situated. They're likely going to kick off first to let their defense try to control the game. I don't think they're going to take the ball with a true freshman quarterback with defense. I think they want to let him settled, watch some of the game. So to me, if I'm A&M, I take the ball. If I'm on Missouri, I don't take the ball. That's an advantageous edge for being a first half better because you likely get one less possession. But the Missouri, the A&M defense, again, allowing 3.9 yards per carry. And the only time they've got rattled all year, besides the opener against UTSA, they went to Arkansas. They allowed 268 yards per game and 8.4 yards per carry. But that Arkansas rush game and that Arkansas offense is leap years ahead of what Missouri is. So for me, conservative game plan for the young quarterback, for an offense that the last 4 weeks already has only averaged 356 yards per game, and that was with Pribula in. First half team total under for me.
All right. Drilling it down a little bit more with the first half team total under. That's the way Ralph is going. Certainly, A&M, you don't need to remind me, guys. A&M played one heck of a second half against LSU there 2 weeks ago. Both these teams off buys. It'll be interesting to see Ahmad Hardy, what the running back for Mizzou, what he can do in this matchup. Obviously, a lot more pressure on him with the injuries at the quarterback position. All right, let's take a break from our rundown real quick. Ralph, I know we have another exclusive deal to let the people know about here on the Blitz. Why don't you tell everyone about that right now?
Well, the Weekend Warrior is still active, guys, so don't worry. If you're interested in that, it's a great deal. Feel free to do that. But we do have an exclusive special just for the three of us. So it's good for Brian, Ross, and me, and you can use it as many times as you want on the three of us. It's good through Sunday at midnight. The code is BLITZ25, no space, BLITZ 25, and it's 25% any package of $299 or more. So to give you two examples, the rest of the college football season is currently $299. If you want one of the three of us for the rest of the season, the code BLITZ25 will save you $74.75. You pay just $224.25. But listen to this. If you get the college football and NFL combo, it is just $130 more than the college football season is by itself. So while the college football is a great deal, seriously, guys, for $130 more for the NFL for the rest of the year, it's a no-brainer to me. So BLITZ25, check it out. By the way, I have a 5% NFL play tonight in the NFL, and I have a 5% play loaded already for Saturday. My college football 5%'s 11-2, 85%. The last 2 weeks I've had totals. They've covered by a combined 38 points. Get the Weekend Warrior now. You'll get that college football play immediately.
Ross, I want to give you, thank you for, by the way, Ralph, for doing that. Ross, I want to give you now a chance to talk about what you've got going on. And I also then want to get into our next game on the rundown. It is a very interesting game. I think the most interesting game of the weekend, because we were all aligned on Texas Tech against BYU in the top 10 matchup. But for me, the most interesting game is Oregon, Iowa. So you could take it whichever direction you want, Ross. If you want to tell the people what you've got going this weekend, and then go right into the breakdown, feel free. But Oregon, Iowa is next on the docket. So there you go.
Yeah, Saturday in college football, 3 to 5 plays not posted yet, but they will be. And 5% top play included, 7-2 on college football, 5% best bets this year. And I'm coming off the first losing weekend in football since the first week of September. So beware of the wounded boss, and that's Ross when he's coming off a losing week, because I respond more times than not in a huge fashion, and I plan on doing so here. And again, don't forget the 365-day all-access pass as well, folks. Usually $19.99. Now it's $14.99, and you're going to get $500 off, a little more than $4 a day. Why do I bring that up? Because over the last 6 months, I've now made a net profit of 132 units in all sports. And that's even with a terrible week last week. So I'm bouncing back, and take advantage of these offers. And listen to what Ralph said, too. Those are some pretty damn good offers from me. College football, number one in win percentage, number one in return on investment, number two in units earned, 26-14 this season, 65%, over 40 units in net profit. Went number one in both win percentage and units earned last year in college football. 2023, I was number two in my college football and NFL combined, Brian. Even with last week where it was just terrible, I'm still a combined 40-24 in college football and the NFL since September 11th. So that Weekend Warrior special, folks, $49. Take advantage of that. It's an absolute steal.
Yeah, obviously bad weekends can happen. They happened to me 2 weeks ago, Ross. 2 weeks ago, it bit me, but we bounced back last week. I'll tell the people about what I've got going on in a little bit. You see, if you're watching us live, you see in the chat right now, hey, guys, if there's any other games you want to talk about, we are going to talk about Oregon, Iowa here in a second. Notre Dame, Navy as well. That completes our round. Any other games you want to talk about, drop them in the chat, and we will be sure to get to them after we get through our rundown. So, all right, Oregon, Iowa. Actually, let me go to you, Ralph. I'll give you the first crack because I know that you guys were agreeing so much on the first. I want to give you the first crack on one now, Ralph, on this Oregon, Iowa matchup. I think it's very interesting. Preseason, I bet Oregon to miss the college football playoff. Right now, it does not look like a good bet. That's the one in my preseason Power 5 that I don't know if we're going to get there, folks. But I'm looking at this Oregon schedule. Guys, rest of the way, there's some landmines. And this week, Kinnick, it's a tough place to win. I think Iowa deserves to be ranked. I don't know what you guys can think about that. But I've got them power rated in the top 20. Ralph, is Iowa live here? Can they pull the upset or at least stay within the number? Oh, my.
Nope. You look at their defense and you say, oh, my God, they can slow anybody. They're only allowing 235 yards per game. They're only allowing 84 yards rushing and 3.6 yards per carry. And they are only allowing 55.8% completions. Those are absolutely amazing numbers. But let me just quickly go down their schedule and tell me how many top 30 offenses you see. Iowa State, UMass, Rutgers. Rutgers is the top 30. They allowed 400 yards. Indiana, they lost to Indiana. They played a good game against Indiana, allowing 337 yards. That was 189 yards under their average. So I do give them that. And then Wisconsin, Penn State, Minnesota. So their numbers are based on their very weak set of offenses they faced. Indiana, to me, was in a situation where they're still learning how to win. Granted, they got there last year. They got to the playoffs, but a unique situation. For Oregon, you You go to Penn State, you win that game. Penn State was still a partial team at that point. You come home, you lose to Indiana. You go take out your frustrations against Rutgers with 750 yards. You play Wisconsin, another good defense, and that is 335 yards. So you see that they have been slowed a couple times against Big Ten defenses, but I think that helps them here. The difference is against Indiana, they couldn't rush the ball. And even though Iowa's got some good rush defense numbers, they did allow 170 yards to Penn State. They allowed Wisconsin 127 yards. I think that's the difference in this game. Oregon will be able to rush on Iowa. Last couple games for Oregon, 200 plus yards. They've topped 200 yards rushing 5 times. They're averaging 6.3 yards per carry. In Big Ten play, they're averaging 5.8 yards per carry and 210 yards per game. It's not going to make my card. It's not even in my top 20. But I think Oregon does get it done against Iowa. I think them seeing a couple tough defenses in Indiana and Wisconsin clearly helps them in this situation versus Iowa facing the fastest team faced all season.
Okay, Ralph not buying the dog in this spot. Ross, Titan CT in the chat, he brought up a point. Yes, this is true. Dan Lanning, the head coach of Oregon, of course, he whined and got this kickoff time moved down to 3:30. He did not want the noon Eastern kickoff. Obviously, Oregon coming from the Pacific time zone since the Big Ten expanded. There's been a lot of discourse, rightfully so, about the teams out west starting early, the teams from out east kicking off late. What do you think, Ross? 3:30, good, nice neutral kickoff for these two teams from different time zones. How do you handicap this one?
Yeah, I agree with Ralph. It's really scary, right, Ralph? Four games in a row now. We agreed. I'm almost going to disagree with you on Navy Notre Dame, just so we don't jinx each other. But in any event, look, here's the difference I see. Iowa's improved offensively compared to what they've been, but they're still borderline anemic. I mean, yeah, they're very misleading, 31.3 points per game when you consider the fact they're only averaging 318 yards per contest. And they're only averaging 5.2 yards per play. Then you go on the other side in Oregon. Everybody thinks about Iowa's defense, and that's the main thing to look at. And usually they have the better defense in any matchup they play against the opposition for the most part. But I beg to differ here because Oregon's defense is probably the most overlooked part of their game, and they're only allowing 16 points per game and 263.7 yards per contest. This Oregon's offense, this is where the difference comes in. You're looking at a team that's averaging 517 yards per game and 8.1 yards per play, and that's on the road. Okay, so in all games they're averaging 485.1 yards per game and 7.5 yards per play. On the road, Ralph, this Oregon team is plus 3.9 yards per play net. Okay, when you look at Iowa, again, at home, they're plus 1.7, but overall, again, I just think Oregon's offense, this is a typical example of a team that might be able to stay in the game with their defense early, meaning Iowa, but I just see Oregon wearing them down from an offensive standpoint because they're able to stay on the field and sustain drives a lot more than Iowa does. And if they could stay away from turnovers, especially creating short fields and not giving up a special teams return touchdown, that's where Iowa has really amped up their points per game as compared to what they're really gaining per contest. I think Oregon wins this game by a couple touchdowns. I'm going to take the Ducks here, -6 on the road.
All right, we got some Duck believers here on the panel. Ralph, yes.
Let me just add one more thing for the Oregon Ducks. Their offense are almost like hockey lines. Listen to these stats for their 4 running backs this year. Whittington, 433 yards, 8.5 yards per carry, 4 TDs. Hill, 357 yards, 9.9 yards per carry, 3 TDs. Davison, 352 yards, 7.0 yards per carry, 10 TDs. And Lemur, 5.9 yards per carry, 3 TDs. That is 4 running backs, 250 yards, 6 yards per carry, and all of them have 3 touchdowns or more. When you have that type of depth in your backfield, that is damn scary.
It is. And look, all your guys' points are well taken. I'm going to say this, though. Maybe it's not this week. But Oregon still has USC. They still have Washington. For those of you in the chat who are a little skeptical about this team, maybe like I am, this Oregon team, they're going to lose before the end of the regular season. They will drop one game. It may not be here, but Oregon will drop a game before the end of the regular season.
I see a Miller Lite bet on the line here, Brian.
Okay.
Brian, you're talking about landmines. What are the 4 games? I mean, I know they play Washington.
They're at Washington, and they host USC. I think USC is a good football team. And remember, Lincoln Riley does not have to leave the Pacific time zone for that game.
But I mean, again, USC, if that game was at USC, I could see it. USC to go into Oregon in the position Oregon's in, going in undefeated and looking for one of those top 4 seeds. I don't see it. But, again, we'll see how it plays out.
Brian, just FYI, Brian, my power ratings have Oregon only by 11.5 at home against USC. So I can.
Stranger things have happened. It's college football in November.
USC is good, Brian. I agree with you. They are a good team.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Like I said, stranger things. I just feel like Oregon, everyone just assumes they're going to be in the playoff. You know what they say about when you assume. All right, we have one more game. I assume Notre Dame's going to beat Navy this week, guys, but we have a very large point spread to talk about, and I generally like service academies as underdogs. Now, Navy, they've failed to cover 5 in a row. They were unbeaten, though, by the way, going into last week. They ran into the old Mean Green of North Texas. The odds makers were telling you there, Ross, that what they thought of, that they tried to tell the people that Navy was going to suffer their first loss, and sure enough, they did. North Texas looked good. Notre Dame, another one of those teams that just basically, obviously, they just need to win out. They're in the college football playoff. What do you think here? Believe it, my power ratings actually said this number was short at the open. The market agrees. Notre Dame's taken some money, but I don't want to lay this. I know Navy, it's not, the 1950s. They're not totally going to slow it down, and the game got away from them last year against Notre Dame, but I don't like laying this many points against the Service Academy. I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the last 2 matchups. Navy went into the Notre Dame game last year as a 6-0 team and nationally ranked and lose 51-14.
Yeah, Notre Dame was awesome in that game.
Yeah. And the year before, they played in Ireland, and Notre Dame won 42-3. Both games were under Navy head coach Brian Newberry, who's now in his 3rd year. So Brian Newberry's had very little success against Notre Dame, and joined the club because a lot of teams in the last couple of years haven't had a lot of success against Notre Dame. The big thing here, I'd like to. I just can't lay a number this big confidently. But if you put the proverbial gun to my head, look, here's the thing. Navy still, they're an improved passing team, and I'm sure Ralph will point that out. They have a very good quarterback in Blake Horvath, who could beat you both with his arm and his legs. However, still, their cup of tea is running the ball, and that's their strength. And you look at even last week in that loss against North Texas, they had 311 yards rushing, 411 yards of offense. What killed them last week, they outgained North Texas. The problem was, they did not outgain. I take them back, but they were outgained by just 33 yards. But turnovers killed them. I mean, they turned the ball over 3 times. They didn't force any turnovers. And you look at Navy's turnover differential, and it's pretty much about even. But you look at Notre Dame. Look at Notre Dame in their last 6 games. They forced 3, 4, 2 turnovers. And they forced, 3, 6, 9, 13, 15, 17, 18, and they've only turned the ball over 8 times. They're plus 10 turnover margin. And Navy, don't forget, folks, again, their calling card is their run game, and their pass game is improved, Ralph. But the bottom line is they're not built to come from behind. And I just don't see how they stay in this game competitively where they could just continue to run the ball time after time. And Notre Dame's pretty darn good against the run, Ralph, the last time I checked.
Damn you, Ross. All right. So let me say this. You say, oh my God, Navy's rushing the last 4 games, 282 yards per game and 6.7 yards per carry. But I want to point out 2 things. How many FBS teams are there?
Yeah,
136.
I mean, you're talking about Air Force, Temple, Florida Atlantic, and North Texas.
Exactly. Okay. There's 136 FBS teams. We've played 7, 8, or 9 games this college football season. Navy has played the number 146th toughest schedule. That means at least 13 FCS teams have played a tougher schedule. The last 4 games that Ross just mentioned, those teams have rush defenses of 129, 130, 124, and 115. Now, one team better than 115th rush defense. Oh, yeah, by the way, Notre Dame, number 12. Let's also remember, it is much different playing a option team if you don't regularly see them. Well, guess what? Notre Dame preps for this every summer. They see Navy every year. In fact, last year, they played Navy and Army. So they saw 2 option teams. So you have a team that knows how to prep for the option, by far the best rush defense they've ever faced, and a team that is shell-shocked playing this good of a team in Navy. I'm going to go Navy team total under. And, I'm going to go full game on this one in case something fluky happens in the first. But there's no way I can get to the Navy side. I'm not interested in laying out at Notre Dame because Notre Dame has not played fast. They've scored quickly a couple times, but they're actually number 103 in plays per game, and Navy's number 121 in plays per game. Add it up to me, it is Navy team total under. That gets me out of the laying the big chalk with the Irish, and therefore Ross and I don't have to have the same play.
Hey, all right. Hey, sometimes, the people probably like it when we agree. Obviously, it can make them maybe a little more confident in their own bets. The Navy schedule is fascinating, Ralph. I've got it up here. They were a double-digit favorite each of those first 7 wins to open the year. They're a dog last week to North Texas. Obviously, they're a huge dog here to Notre Dame. Well, guess what? They're going to be a dog the next 2 games, too, against USF and at Memphis as well. So their record certainly wasn't.
Yeah, and
with 2 offenses that can score with anybody. Navy's going to have to score 40 to be in either one of those games. We'll see if they can.
Yeah, and here's the thing: they've been a favorite all along until the North Texas game, but against FBS opponents this year, Navy's just 1-6 against the spread, and they won 6 of those 7 games straight up. So it's not like I can make a strong case. Compared to last year's Navy team, I think this year's Navy team is a bit weaker. And I think the big difference is they were much better defensively last year than they were this year. They are this year.
Yep, Ross, good point. The last 4 games for Navy against those crappy opponents, they allowed 460, 518, 450, and 424. You're talking about a defense that isn't very deep, getting worn down. And 4 games of the season, they allowed about 300 yards per game. Last 4, they're at 463. I'm going to say the last 4 games, they might be allowing 550 yards looking at Notre Dame, USF, Memphis, and then, Army. They have Army.
Army to close the year. And that's they could go from 7-0 to 7-5 real quick.
Yeah, so and I think the difference, too, though, is Notre Dame's defense as opposed to UCF and Memphis. Notre Dame's defense is on another plane. UCF is very good, but look, they give up a lot of yards, okay? Same thing with Memphis. You look at their defensive numbers, not even close to the caliber of this Notre Dame defense. So, a lot of aspects to look here. At the end of the day, it's still a big point spread. And I don't disagree with Ralph's under on Navy, though.
Yeah, they always call it the great equalizer for a reason. Look, I've since apologized. Remember, Notre Dame's defense was called out early in the year. It was not playing up to stuff after the losses to Miami and Texas A&M. And then they just flipped the switch, start with that Arkansas game, man. I've got on the record on the Power 5, guys. I've apologized because I didn't think Notre Dame was going to be able to do it and run the table, make the playoff. And now, obviously, the odds.
You look, they only allowed 324 yards to Miami. That's not a bad performance at all. That's a season low for Miami. So while you say it's bad, I actually say it's a positive.
It's aged well.
Season low. Yeah.
Yeah, it's aged well, and obviously, the fact that Notre Dame was favored in both of those laws. This is a team. Notre Dame is very high. They're a top 5 team in my power ratings right now, Notre Dame. So they've got them in the right direction. Sounds like we all think Navy's lost at sea. We are never lost at sea, if I may use the terrible pun there, Dan Alexander, because we have the chat. We will be getting to our best bets momentarily. All 3 of us have a best bet to share with you. But before that, obviously, this is a live program. We want to stay as interactive as possible. So let's now turn to some of your questions. And we've got one on UConn and Duke. Tough spot for Duke. Stepping out of the ACC play, laying a number on the road. I like UConn here, plus the points. Titans CT. I'll tell you that right now. This is close to even actually making my card. I think the dog is absolutely live in this one. I don't know if either of you guys have anything to share on that one.
Well, if you go by common opponents and you believe in that theory, UConn played at Syracuse earlier this year and took the Orange to overtime, and that's with Steve Angeli at quarterback.
Yes. Big difference for Syracuse, yes. Yeah,
and then Duke at Syracuse earlier this season, and they win 38-3, a real lopsided game at Syracuse. So if you believe in that common opponent and matching how each team did against a common opponent, Duke's definitely the better team here, Brian, and they definitely have more class. But you make a good point. I mean, it's a hell of a time to stick in an independent with not a big brand name in the middle of your ACC schedule.
I'll tell you what, I really like I like the UConn offense. I like what Moore has done. I like the over in this game. I mean, both offenses are far superior to their defenses, and Duke put a 46 against Clemson, right? And, then they got them in Virginia. So I'm looking to look at some Duke overs. And UConn last week against UAB, they put up 38. UAB only put up 19. Week before, 400 yards at Rice, 455 yards at Boston College, 527 yards at against FIU. Again, some weak defenses as well, but I like the Jim Moore offense for the Huskies.
The chat can correct me if I'm wrong on this one here, guys. I believe Duke, when they played Syracuse, that I believe was Syracuse's first game without Angeli after the Angeli injury.
Ricky Collins was the quarterback. But still, it was still a one-sided loss.
It absolutely was.
Yeah.
Here's something to consider, though, when you're getting this many points with UConn, guys. This is unbelievable. I swear it's true. I would never lie to the people. I would certainly never lie to either of you, Ross or Ralph. There are 5 teams in the FBS that have not lost a game in regulation this year. Okay. One of them is UConn. UConn, all of their losses are in overtime. Give me the points with the Huskies here.
Strength of schedule, though, Brian.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, I hear you.
And, you can say it's a positive. You can also say it's a negative that they don't know how to finish. But again, that to me would only be relevant if you have a line between the threes or between the touchdowns for that type of team that can't finish the game.
All right. Let's get another question from the chat here. And, Jay Buff is in, as always. Jay Buff joined us for the college basketball show, if I may have a shameless plug here. Full Court Press, Wager Talk's new college hoop show involving myself. Yes, if you can't get enough of me here on the Blitz. I also do an hour every morning with Rob Vino and Adam Trigger talking college hoops card. Jay Buff joins. That show is live as well. We take your questions. Hope to see you there again every Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern. Jay Buff likes Kentucky and Wake Forest. And it says no Ohio chatter. Yes, okay, I'll be honest with you. We cheated on that game-winning touchdown on Tuesday against Miami. I'm not going to run from it, okay? It's Halloween week, Jay Buff. You come from a different campus down to Athens that week, strange things are going to happen to you. We got away with a hold. We won the game. I'll take it. I had Ohio. That was my $5 Tuesday play, by the way. But what do you guys think? Ross, you pick one of them. I'll let you pick first. Do you want to go with the Kentucky hosting Florida or Wake Forest traveling to this absolute luck box Virginia team? You pick one, and then I'll let Ralph tackle the other.
Yeah, I mean, I like Kentucky here as a 3-point dog. They finally got off the schneid, them in Mississippi State last week to get their first SEC wins in quite a while. They had the longest losing streaks in SEC play going into last week. Kentucky's offense is much improved. That was their enigma to start the season, but they've come on as the season has progressed. Florida losing that heartbreaker to Georgia, even though I think all of us said that was a danger spot for the Georgia Bulldogs. Why were they just a 7-point favorite in that game? So I'm going to have a lean toward Kentucky here, catching the 3 at home against a Florida team again that's playing with a lame duck coaching staff. And Stoops over at Kentucky has been a mainstay there. And I think the Kentucky Wildcats carry over the momentum from a win a week ago and continue it here against the Florida Gators.
Okay. Ralph, you want to talk about Virginia Wake Forest? Look, I've said my piece on this Virginia team on Malton. Yes, my good friend Aaron Kidd was very upset with me on Twitter when I called his team the luckiest team in America. Look, they're the luckiest team in America. I mean, and by the way, if you had Virginia last week, I hope you said your prayers afterwards.
Is Virginia
that was
more
unbelievable.
lucky? Is Virginia more lucky or is Auburn more unlucky?
That is a great question.
Combination of both, Ralph.
That is a great question. Yes, I know those teams are at polar opposites of the luck ratings this year for sure. But did you have anything on that? Obviously, Wake Forest traveling to Virginia. The only problem is I think the number's a little short. Odds makers know everyone wants to bet against Virginia, and they're not giving us the numbers we want, Ralph.
You know, I did not see the Cal game against Virginia, but I mean, I obviously heard what happened. But I'll tell you what I cannot get out of my mind, and sometimes it doesn't matter how long you've been handicapping. As bad as Chandler Morris looked at North Carolina 2 weeks ago, he looked like he had deer in the headlights. Now, granted, North Carolina's defense has greatly improved the last 5 or 6 games. I actually think they're probably like a top 30 defense if you look at what the Tar Heels done. But this is at home, so that puts it in a different perspective. But I like the Wake Forest defense as well. They're actually a top 20 defense. They're holding opponents to almost 100 yards per game under what their average allows. You don't think about it, but they allowed Florida State 421 last week. That's actually Florida State's only 4th highest. They held SMU to a season low 246 the week before. I'm not going to get there because Chandler Morris at home can be a different quarterback than he can. But my first instinct would be lean under, but this is way down at the bottom of my pile. So don't put too much stock in my opinion.
Obviously, for anyone who missed it, Virginia had a late pick 6 to cover the spread last week at Cal. So there you go with that one right there. By the Wake Forest, I guarantee you they're going to play better than they did last week against Florida State. Florida State was a winner for me last Saturday night. Boy, did they come out of the chutes playing. That was the Seminoles. That was the best the Seminoles looked since the Alabama game. So you could bet Wake's going to come out their hair on fire after being embarrassed down in Tallahassee. Do we have another question from the chat, sir? Ryan, what do you think about Vandy giving Auburn? Well, there it is. Okay, from the lucky to the unlucky. Auburn. Ralph mentioned them. Auburn, another team, Hugh Freeze. He's got more time to make phone calls, I suppose, now. But let's see. I don't know. They can't lose them all, can they, guys? I mean, this is the interim coach. I mean, when they lose close. I kind of want to take Auburn, to be honest here. Do you guys have any idea on this?
Ralph's got a good stat on interim coaches this year. They got a pretty good record, so I won't steal his thunder. But, yeah, I mean, Vandy – Auburn's a tough team to blow out. At the end of the day, they play very good defense and are catching points at home. I certainly wouldn't be brave enough to predict an outright upset here, but I do think very small lean. This isn't going to be on my premium card. I do think that Auburn will stay in this game throughout, and that will give them an excellent opportunity to stay inside this number. So, Ralph?
I'm just going to lean under. To be honest with you, I think I had the Auburn game wrong the first 5 weeks, and I've just stopped looking at them, thankfully, because they could be so frustrating, But it's tough to be an SEC team and think that you had a shot to be, middle of the road bowl, and now all of a sudden you lost 5 of your 6 games. The only game you won was Arkansas, and the only reason you beat Arkansas is because you're plus 3 turnovers. You put Auburn on a playing field, and if a team doesn't turn the ball over, they're not going to win. You look at Vanderbilt, they've only been minus turnovers in 3 games. They were -1 against Texas, which may have cost them the game, -2 against Alabama, which they lost, and -1 against Virginia Tech. Again, a shitty team early in the year. But to me, Vandy is a team that everyone believed in. Pavia was so excited. Losing to Alabama doesn't dash their hopes, but the comeback against Texas is tough. All that emotion in the fourth quarter to get close and then end up losing and then coming back home. 2 desperate teams. So I'll lean under and I'll lean Auburn, I guess.
Interim head coaches this year, Ralph.
I think they're 6-0. I might have missed one, but
Colorado State did lose. Colorado State lost to Wyoming, didn't they? I think that's and then Florida covered last.
Shut him down.
And Florida covered last week, but didn't win.
And I liked Wyoming last week too. That again, I said this a couple of weeks ago. That is a situation that would not faze me. That is not a long-term trend. That is just something that's happened this year because of and even we talked about the new interim at LSU. These coaches are becoming very creative. Going back to the LSU game, I think Wilson is their head coach now. He's an Orgeron and Pete Carroll, and he has a drum that he beats in there, and the players are going to be able to beat the drum if they make a big play. So with college kids, quirky little things like that can get him excited for one game, but it wears off pretty quick.
Yeah, and I could add this too, if I can, Brian, real quickly.
Sure, go ahead.
Is interim head coaches, if the kids believe that the interim head coach has a legitimate chance to take over as a head coach, depending on how they finish the season, now they don't have to worry about transferring because it's a whole new coaching staff. There's familiarity there. So I think that comes into play a lot. And I'd be curious, and I don't know this, Ralph's right. This is an oddity for interim head coaching staffs to have the record they do this year. But I'd be interested in how many of those head coaches that compiled into that 6-1 record really have a legitimate chance to take over that program the following year. At the power conference level, it's normally not the case. Agree, guys, or no?
Yeah. And again, a lot of times you got to remember, most of the guys that become head coaches are the quality OCs and DCs.
Yeah.
Your interims are normally not your OC or DC because they want to keep the continuity in the offense and the defense. So it's the special teams coach or the assistant coach. So the best coach is not always the interim. They're trying to keep the other units calm, peaceful, and have some continuity to them.
Yeah, Dabo Sweeney actually was an interim head coach when Clemson got off to a bad start.
He was the wide receiver coach. He wasn't the OC. He was the wide receiver coach.
It's a good point.
Yeah, and obviously this year has been so unique with so many in season. You don't normally see this. I mean, it's going to happen more and more, obviously. Yes.
NIL money allows them, if there was no NIL money and there were no boosters like they were, LSU doesn't fire them. Florida doesn't fire them. Now it doesn't matter. The money's free flowing.
Yeah, you just don't want to fall behind. It's an arms race in these big conferences. You just don't want to fall behind. Guys don't want to risk, losing seasons. All right.
And look what's happened, right? James Franklin gets fired. And then all of a sudden, Signetti gets a $13 million a year raise. And then some guy at Nebraska, who I think is 27 and 25, gets a $6 million raise because they think they might go to him to try to get their coach. So, being over 500 now in college football is being like an old left-handed starter in the MLB. You just get paid.
Yeah, but Nebraska took over a program that was a mess at Nebraska in his defense.
He did.
And I am a big fan. I love what he did at Temple's third year. I love what he did at Baylor's third year. So I am a fan, but I agree with you.
All right. I think we have one more question before we get to the best bets. Best place to find, here's an interesting one, not a specific game, just a best place to find both college and NFL advanced stats as EPA per PSR, et cetera. Where do you guys go? Is there any place you want to direct Jay to that you go to for stats? In any specific place?
Well, I mean, there's a couple places, but they're pretty much competitors, so I don't want to give any. Well, I could say it because Covers doesn't sell picks anymore. No. Covers and And a Stat Fox is another one. It's now called
Stat Sharp. Yeah, Stat Sharp. And
Stat Sharp.
they're like they're $29 a month now, but I use Stat Sharp.
Very
as well.
reasonable.
Yeah. You know, but I do a lot of my own. I mean, there's not advanced analytics because it's so much different. In the NFL, you can have advanced analytics because at the beginning of the season, you probably only have a 12-point variance from top to bottom. You know, maybe 15 or 18 now when you got some crappy teams like Tennessee.
Yeah.
But in college football, you have a 60-point variance, so the analytics can't work. It's not the same thing.
Yeah,
so
was he asking for advanced analytics or advanced stats?
I think he's looking for stats in general. Jay, if you wanted it, you know what, Jay?
And I'll tell you what, a great easy site that's free, CFB Stats. Because you can break them down. They have all the national rankings, but on the left toolbar, you can then look against conference teams, against Power 4 teams, against winning teams, against losing teams. So it allows you a lot of ability to be able to divvy out those stats.
All right. Hopefully that answered your question, Jay. If not, feel free, hit us up. You can find, of course, the replay of this on the Wake Shock YouTube channel. We can answer any specifics and maybe even link you there. Okay, I think we're coming to the end of the program, and that means it's time for our best bets. We're each going to share one here for you. Before I get into mine, I would like you all to know we're on the night. We're heating up this week. Nice 6-1 run in football since last Saturday. That includes a perfect 3-4-3 in college. Hit our game of the week. Thankfully, we got in at 2.5 with Texas last week. My thoughts and prayers to those of you who got stuck with the 3 or even worse, 3.5. That was horrible. Hey, I was with you. I was afraid that Vandy was going to go for 2 and get inside all numbers there, but thankfully they didn't. Had the winner with Ohio as part of $5 Tuesday. So that made it a 6-1 run overall in football, 67% in the NFL going back to October the 6th. That includes the Cardinals outright on Monday night. And speaking of underdogs that I think are live, let's go to Saturday for my best bet. It is the Temple Owls. Somebody cue up the Owl gif here for me. Here's the deal with Army. Temple's playing Army. Temple's getting 7. Here's what you need to know about Temple, okay? They did not play well last week against East Carolina. They're set on the back end. They got carved up by the East Carolina passing attack. Well, guess what? They don't need to worry about that against Army, who runs a triple option. Now, Army's coming off a game against Air Force. Obviously, that's always an emotional situation, part of the Commander-in-Chief Trophy Series. Army wins that game 20-17 on a last-second field goal. But they were outgained, okay, by a modest 40 yards. But here's the key. Army was +3 in turnovers. 2 of those Air Force turnovers came in the red zone. And that game-winning field goal was set up by a kind of wild 40-yard pass. Temple, we talked in the Notre Dame Navy breakdown earlier in this program. We talked about preparing for these service academy teams. Well, Temple's already played Navy. Temple should have won that game. I was on Temple plus the points. They should have absolutely won it. Temple has pulled some upsets this year as well, guys. Not only did they cover against Navy, losing by only 1 as a 10-point dog, but they won outright. Granted, at home against UTSA, and UTSA is not the same on the road as they are at home. But still, this is a Temple team that's played teams tough. I like them in the underdog role. The fact that we're able to get them 7 here, I think, is a good deal. So give me the 7 with the Owls. Temple. That is my show best bet. Ralph, I'll go to you next.
Again, if you're watching live, a 5% NFL up now. If you're not, grab that Weekend Warrior or take advantage of BLITZ 25. That is valid only for Ross the Boss, Bryan Power, and myself. 25% off any package, $2.99 or more. I'm going to go Arkansas State. Now, I don't watch many Sun Belt games. I watch some highlights, and I do a radio or pod show every Friday morning from Alabama with Longshore and McKnight. And Barry McKnight is actually the play-by-play caller for Troy. So we talk Troy football a lot on the show, and I get a good feel for it. So I watched this Arkansas State team beat Troy last week, and the offense only had 297 yards, but that defense was amazing. Now, we're not talking about an elite offense with Troy, but when you hold someone to 187 yards, 11 first downs, and you sack them 9 times, it catches your attention. This Arkansas State defense has held 2 of the last 3 opponents to a season low. The other opponent to a season number 2 low. They have 13 sacks on defense, 2 sacks on offense the last 3 games. Southern Miss has a very good offensive line. They don't rush the ball well, but they do hold them stacks. I think that breaks up the game. And then I look at rush defense over the last 3 or 4 weeks. I give the edge to Arkansas State as well. At home, 4 straight wins. They beat an FCS team. They lose 4 straight. They win 4 straight. SMU, 4 straight wins. I'm going to take the home team, better current form for the defense, and I actually feel a team that can run the ball better than the Eagles. So Arkansas State for me, go Red Wolves.
All right, the Red Wolves. So it's Temple. That's Arkansas State.
Okay, Ross, we've got like top 20 teams if you go from the bottom
I was going to say, I was going to say, hey, that's what the rundown is for. The rundown is to talk about those marquee games that everyone wants to hear about. Ross, round out this 3-leg parlay.
Yeah, sometimes you got to go to the FBS group of 5, to find the hidden value. And I think I have one here. I think Ralph may as well. You know what, Ralph? You're a marketing genius. The state of Alabama, I think that might be the most popular state for sports betting, or especially college football betting, the state of Alabama. And I also would pay to see the expressions on people's face with those southern drawls down there to listen to Ralph talk, So anyway, you're my idol, Ralph. In any event, FIU is squaring off against Middle Tennessee State this week. The total in this game is 51. I look at these types of things. Both teams are coming off an under. And FIU has played 3-0 to the over in their last 3 games, following an under in their previous contest. Those 3 games, 66 points per game. Middle Tennessee is certainly not an offensive juggernaut, but I think they'll get their fair share of points here, and I'll tell you in a second why. But they're also coming off an under, like I alluded to, 3-1 to the over this year when coming off an under in their previous game, 55.8 points combined scored per contest in those 4 games. FIU, last 3 games, their offense really clicking at 439 yards per game, and they're averaging in those 3 contests 71.3 offensive plays per game. Ralph can speak better than this, but I think that's a pretty good tempo, Ralph. And their defense over their last 4 games, 32.5 points per game allowed, over 443 yards of total offense to the opposition. So I think Middle Tennessee they'll go over their season average in points and yards in this contest. And FIU, like I alluded to, playing at a very fast pace and very improved offensively. I gave you the numbers over the last 3 games. I'm going to go over the total of 51 in the game between Middle Tennessee State and FIU.
Hey, Brian, let me quantify one thing for Ross, because Ross, I actually have those numbers. FIU is number 29 in the country in plays per game, so very fast. Middle Tennessee is only 79 for the season, number 79 at 66 plays per game, but in conference-only action, they are actually number 28 in plays, running 71.5 plays per game. So you have 2 teams in the top 30 as far as pace is concerned.
Thank you, Ralph.
All right. There we go. And there we go with the Blitz squad ride right there. Yes, an all group of 5 3-leg parlay here as Ross is going with the over 51 FIU and Middle Tennessee. Ralph likes Arkansas State plus the points. I like Temple plus the points. That is Conference USA, the Sun Belt, and the American for you right there. Again, all G5. Ralph, let's hit him with it one more time. That promo, the Blitz exclusive promo, before we say goodbye.
Blitz 25 BLITZ 25, no spaces, only for the 3 of us. It can be for the college football season, the college football NFL combo, or any package $2.99 or more. But Weekend Warrior is still active if you don't want to commit for someone for the whole year. So be it short term, be it long term, we've got you covered at the Blitz.
Okay. There you have it. Another week in the books. Thank you, everyone, for checking us out here that did so live. If you're catching us on the replay, smash that like button. Feel free to comment. We'll be perusing the comment section as the weekend goes along. And make sure you hit subscribe. We'll be back next week, live Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Until then, let's cash the ticket.